Good morning, children. I wonder, have you ever had it said to you? Probably you have. Would you like that if I did it to you? And it probably would make you change the way you did things. You wouldn't do it again because it's upset somebody. And the Bible says something exactly the same, really. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, it says, "So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets." In other words, that's what's fair. That's what the Bible says. And to put it in an absolute nutshell, you could say, treat others as you would like to be treated. And that's a great lesson in life, isn't it? Maybe one day you'll be a manager, a manageress. Maybe you'll be in charge of people. Treat them as you would like to be treated. Great lesson in life. Now, I want to tell you a story today about somebody who didn't do that, and it had bad consequences. His name was George Sholto Gordon Douglas-Pennant, born in 1836, a member of Parliament for Carnarvon. Oh, very important. Third largest Welsh landowner. He owned sugar-producing colonies in Jamaica. He and his family, his ancestors, had been involved in the slave trade, and they'd earned a fortune in that. And he also owned the Penryn Slate Quarry, the largest slate quarry in the world at that time. His father had built a narrow gauge railway to take the slate to the coast, and he shipped it all round the world. It was beautiful, purple blue slate. His father had also built a castle at his own expense. Cost estimate £50 million. Penryn Castle. You can see it if you ever go to Anglesey, just before you get to Bangor. You'll see it amongst the trees. It's ginormous, built in a Norman style. Penryn, no problems with money in that family. They absolutely were loaded. Children, my name is Rhys Edwards, and I was born in a beautiful Welsh village called Bethesda. Well, it's in Snowdonia, in the National Park. 30 years I've worked in the Penryn Slate Mine as a miner. 3,000 of us work there, you know. But you know, the wages are terrible. Oh, dear me. And people get injured and there's no pay. We can't talk to the boss because he won't listen to us. He doesn't give us any pay rise ever. And if you don't like to work for him, don't come to the mine. Well, 30 years I've worked there now. It's the largest slate mine in the world. It's like a big hole in the ground, actually. It's a mile long and 1,200 feet deep. It's dangerous work. And you know, sometimes the rock isn't helpful. We'd not be able to produce the amount of slate, well, normally that we would do, because the rock's the problem there. We don't get much pay then. The pay's reduced. It's terrible conditions. And, you know, he could afford to pay us properly, you know. He's not short of money. Look at that castle down the road. It's enormous. £50 million cost to build today. It would. The manager's name is Mr. Young. And he won't allow any unions, no way to speak to the boss to say, can we have a pay rise, please? And really, it's not really enough to live on. My family's poor. We can't afford a holiday, can't afford anything. Well, something happened. I won't tell you about it. 26th of October in the year 1900, Mr. Young, the manager, found 26 miners paying union dues. Oh, Mr. Young says, you're sacked. You can't work here anymore. I'm not having the unions in this mine. Well, the whole mine force, 3,000 of us, walked out. We said, we're not having that. No, it's not fair. Not fair at all. You're not paying us right, and you don't allow us to represent ourselves to speak to Mr. Pennant. The Great Strike began. It was the largest dispute in British industrial history at that time. It lasted from November 1900 to November 1903. 3 full years. We were determined we were going to get proper pay, proper conditions, to be looked after properly. But the problems got worse. In May 1901, Mr. Pennant put notices in the town to say the mine's reopening. Well, 400 men returned. This was in June 1901. They were given 5% pay rise and they were given a sovereign. And it caused chaos in the village. The neighbours were arguing with the neighbours. There was terrible things going on. The local mounted police had to come into the village to keep order. Mr. Pennant said, I'll move these 400 to a new village. I'll build it myself, Tregarth, just down the road from Bethesda. Christmas 1901 was terrible in Bethesda. Nobody had any money. There was no unemployment pay, no sick pay, nothing. The men from Bethesda searched all over the country for work. Some went to the coal mines in South Wales, some went to the docks in Liverpool. It was national news. In Ashton-under-Lyne, the people heard about it and baked a 2.5-ton Christmas pudding and sent it by lorry to Bethesda. The streets were lined. People thought it was wonderful, but it didn't last long. I'm in the local choir, Bethesda Choir. We toured the country asking for contributions to help the people in the town. The chapels were full. People were praying earnestly for help. Well, 3 years after the start, they returned to work, no better off, no increase in pay, no better conditions. Mr. Pennant had won. Wouldn't it have been easier if it had just paid them a few shillings more? He had to pay millions to build a new village. Well, something wonderful happened the following year, 1904. The Welsh revival started in Bethesda, in other places too. People had returned to church. They had realised that they needed to turn to God in these desperate times. So, please treat others like you would like to be treated, like Mr. Pennant should have done.